I'm getting the message, stop experiencing what you're experiencing and shut up about it. So I learned to do that. So by the time I'm 10, 12, 15, 18, 20, I'm, Phyllis used the term emotionally stunted. I'm so stunted. I don't have any clue. And I looked like I was actually cute back then. I was athletic and funny and fun. So I looked fine. And of course, I had no idea. She had no idea that, oh, no, this guy is just a shutdown, as Phyllis is, because she had similar experiences growing up. So we had no idea how to connect. And any two people that live in close proximity are going to bump into each other. They're going to step on each other's toes. Well, we didn't know how to say, ow. We didn't know how to say, oh, that was painful.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Sexology Podcast. I am so excited to introduce Dr. Glenn Hill and Phyllis Hill. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Sorry, it's privilege.
I'm so excited to have fellow podcasters, people who are working on spreading love and information about good sex. So what I'm curious about is that you guys are together for many years. Can you tell us about how did you guys started kind of like doing this journey of podcasting together? Tell us about your origin story.
Yeah.
Wow. We could use the whole show for that. So we'll try to make it really short. Sadly, our beginning days, we've been married now 42 years, and our beginning days, sex was really bad. I did not, really, we thought I was broken, did not have an orgasm for quite a while, and just really got off to a bad start. And so when we realized we just didn't have enough knowledge, then I think we've just spent the rest of our married life at this point really dedicated to spreading just that knowledge, spreading the word. Like, people don't have to suffer. They can get the information. And, we got married in 1982, so there was no Google, there was no, internet, and it was much harder to get the information. You had to just ask friends to tell you things, or you could, obviously learn about it through books and things. But, today with podcasting and with the internet and with there's in the books, there's so much more information to be had. And we just want to we want people to avoid what we had to go through.
Right. Yeah. And the sad thing is that even with all that information available, most couples still flounder and struggle. And of course, the topic of sex is kind of taboo in our culture, at least, and a lot of other cultures. It's not even discussed. And so, like for us, we floundered. 24 hours before our wedding, we were excited about happily ever after. And then 48 hours after our wedding, we were lost already. And really, we didn't write these things on a calendar, but stayed lost for probably 20, 25 years. It wasn't just a bad weekend or a bad month. It was a long, long time before we started figuring some things out, getting traction. And, we have always cared deeply about each other. So it's not that we, quote unquote, fell out of love. We just didn't know what to do. And we lost each other relationally so much. And sex was a big part of that, but we lost each other in every way. And that led us to many years later, Phyllis finally said, babe, her quote was, she said, as hard as you work, we should be rich, and we're not rich, so you have to quit working. And I thought, well, that's not going to help us any financially. And she said, no, I'll build a business. You go back to school and figure some stuff out. And that really set us on a path where I had the time and the freedom to do research and just try to figure out what happens for this couple that we got lost from each other. How can that be? We really, we showed up on our wedding day on purpose because we wanted to be together, and yet we were clueless. We had no tools in how to do this well. And so that began our quest to just figure it out. We just couldn't believe that this is as good as it gets.
That is incredible.
Yeah. And we found out that it's not. We actually, when you have the right tools, you can build a house, you can build a home. When you don't have the right tools, it's exhausting and overwhelming.
That is so true for many marriages. And often people think that, okay, if you don't have the spark from the beginning, the sex is not good, then it just gets worse from there. But compared to what you guys shared with us, kind of like what I hear a lot from lots of people is that if you don't have the tools, like you don't have a good starting point. So it's all about investing, getting curious about what works, and learning tools and strategies. You're right that right now, definitely there's significant more content out there, but not necessarily all of them are accurate. All of them is a good fit. So I'm glad and grateful for you guys to sharing your experience with us. And we talked about a number of different things. One thing that you talked about is like sexual skills, like having sexual information, sexual skills. What I noticed, the challenge that many couples have that I see in my practice, and I can imagine that's something that you guys have kind of experience and work with the couples that you guys are working with, is this emotional dysregulation. Most of times when people come to me, maybe part of the issue is sexual health issues, but the main reason that they're not able to have good enough sexual experiences because they are sexually dysregulated, and that gets in the way of them being able to connect. Tell us, when we're talking about, that's one of the topics that you guys talk a lot about. Tell us about emotional regulation and co-regulation in a healthy relationship.
Yeah. And that was a big thing in my research too, when we learned that the brain doesn't distinguish physical pain from emotional pain. So if Phyllis feels hurt by me on a Tuesday afternoon, it's the equivalent as if I punched her in the face or kicked her in the shin. Well, then 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, whatever later, for me to come back to her and say, hey, babe, you want to do some of that sex stuff? Well, I'm the pain source. I'm the one that kicked her in the shin. And I'm thinking, well, that was an hour ago. That was 2 hours ago. No. Her body doesn't feel safe with me because I wounded her. And it's the same. It's just the same as if I had kicked her. And most people don't realize that especially I think typically for men, worse than women, they're like, oh, babe, that was an hour ago. When I hurt your feelings, that was 2 hours ago. Whenever I said that mean thing to you, her whole psyche, her whole body is still caught in that pain. And if she doesn't know how to process it and he doesn't know how to be present and safe for her, you can throw sex out the window. And it's my belief, just based on a bit of experience, that the vast majority of female sexual activity, the woman actually disassociates. She leaves the room. She leaves her body behind, but she's not engaged. Again, she's there physically, but she's actually not engaged because she feels so unsafe with him. And this can happen for males too. I think it happens typically for females far more. And she's just gone. And she knows that she's kind of like, well, we're a partnered pair. I'm supposed to be involved. I'm supposed to put out every so often. So I kind of have to, but she doesn't feel safe with him. And so they're not really engaged because she's emotionally dysregulated. And again, that doesn't mean that she can't do the activity, but I encourage women never, ever, 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 ever do that. Don't ever engage in the activity if you are not feeling safe with him. And again, that's vice versa as well, but especially for women, I think that comes into play.
Well, that is such a great advice. One of the common pattern that I see with couples is that when they come in, their kind of partner, like a heterosexual couple, female partner desires significantly less. We get in this journey of exploration. We discover that sometimes in the past, the partner said yes when she didn't want to have sex, right? It's not even the fact that the male partner was pushing her as much. Yeah. She felt kind of like obligated to have this obligatory sex, and then it kind of remained in her body. And like now, even a few decades later, there is this resentment and frustration. Wow. So I think it's really good that you're reminding people that like when your body says no, then listen to it and honor it. And I can imagine I know it's what happens for people of all gender. But how do you guys then recommend to navigate the interpersonal component of it, right? Because then we get into this place of, I don't want to have sex because my body says no, but the partner might get rejected. And that can be also a toxic pattern.
Yeah. Yeah. And, there's 7-something billion people on the planet, and each of us is unique. So it's really, we have to be cautious as far as making gross generalizations, because there's probably 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 of your listeners that this doesn't apply to. So we always have to filter through and figure out what works for you personally. But typically the male is activated more easily, more readily, more frequently sexually than the female is. Not always, but the large majority of them are. So he's going to get activated, and we're talking about heteronormal, as far as what the societally, typically is the case. The male's going to get activated sexually far more frequently, far more readily. Well, he can do sexual stuff just from that push, that biological push, hormones or whatever you want to attribute it to. The female is going to get activated less readily. And it may, every woman is unique, so it might take several minutes. It might take 10, 15, or 20 minutes for her to get activated. Well, she doesn't even feel safe with him. So that was part of so much of the research that we did. And initially, we were just thinking relationally, not even sex, when I first started this research. I'm just thinking, what happens that they're so excited on their wedding day and, a week, a month, 6 months, 2 years later, they virtually hate each other. They can hardly stand to be in the same room together. How can that be? And so it was years later that we started realizing, this also bleeds into the sexual relationship. This is a big component there as well. And again, it's for both parties, but especially for a female. She doesn't feel safe with him, and now he wants her to be completely vulnerable. Sex, other than childbirth, sex is probably the most vulnerable thing that we ever do as humans. And so he's saying to her, hey, be totally vulnerable with me, be totally present, and just give yourself to me. And she's like, I don't even trust you. I don't even feel safe with you. You wounded me 6 times today, and we haven't even processed through any of that pain. And I'm supposed to trust you because my brain doesn't distinguish physical from emotional pain. So if I'm vulnerable with you, I don't know if you're going to harm me again. So her body literally can't even relax to open up, both literally and figuratively, to him.
When we're talking about safety, I think to realize that for some of us, because safety sometimes, if we're not careful, can even be interpreted like, oh, I'm in an abusive relationship. And we're not talking about that. It is actually being able to tune into your own body and say, do I feel safe within my own body for myself? And then do I feel safe in the relationship I'm in my own body? So it's a very emotional connection that we're not taught. Yeah. We're not taught in most of our homes. We're not taught in school. We're not taught in our communities how to connect with ourselves emotionally. Right. And so then you're in a relationship and you are sexually active in this relationship and you're going, oh my word, I don't even feel safe in my own body. So now I'm trying to be vulnerable with someone else in a very vulnerable act, which sex is. And so we have so many guards, right? We're on guard, and yet we're supposed to relax. And I think especially as women, it's like, oh my word, I'm supposed to relax, but I'm on guard. I'm on guard duty. Like I'm in the guard, and it's just like, wait a minute, relax. But you got to trust your own body to even be able to get there. And then there's so much emotional part of that as far as, if you're in a long-term relationship or not, and there's been wounding, well, the other person may not even know that they're wounding you, right? So it's not that the person even has awareness that may have been a trigger, the wording you just used, or there's that. And so we kind of go back to the emotional thing, which is what Connection Codes is all about, is teaching people how to tune into their emotions. And a lot of us, that's part of our story. In a very strong way, used to say, I don't do emotion. Glenn has enough emotion for both of us. And I took a lot of pride in that. Like, no. I'm a tasker. I'm one of those women who can get a whole lot of shit done. And I thought that was a good thing. But my body, of course, was storing all of the emotion, which means it was starting to break my body down. And that's when I had to face reality and go, oh, I am emotionally stunted. I have no emotional intelligence because I don't even realize that emotions happen to you. And that's true for every human on the planet. We all have a brain that houses emotion. So I had to be incredibly educated about emotional health to be able to even tune in sexually to that component, which was huge. Because I would say I got really good at the sexual act. And yes, I enjoyed sex, but it was always in a guarded fashion. And that limits you. That very much limits you.
Yeah, and the problem is that I was clueless from our wedding night on. I didn't know that this was happening. Phyllis didn't have the tools. She didn't have the voice, the agency to say to me what was happening for her. And so we just stayed lost from each other for so many years. And I mean, I'm 63, she's 62. We've been together a while. We're still discovering. I mean, like literally today, this week, this month, this year, we're discovering more and more of our depth because for both of us, and in a little bit different ways, but both of us were so shut down emotionally. I always share, I can remember my parents saying to me, and I'm not mad at my parents about it. I think they were doing the best that they knew, but there's you stop your crying or I'll give you something to cry about. So, and my father passed away when I was 8, so that was 8 years or younger. So again, didn't chart all this, but when I'm 5 or 6, I'm getting the message, stop experiencing what you're experiencing and shut up about it. So I learned to do that. So by the time I'm 10, 12, 15, 18, 20, I'm, Phyllis used the term emotionally stunted. I'm so stunted. I don't have any clue. And I looked like I was actually cute back then. I was athletic and funny and fun. So I looked fine. And of course, I had no idea. She had no idea that, oh, no, this guy is just as shut down as Phyllis is, because she had similar experiences growing up. So we had no idea how to connect. And any two people that live in close proximity are going to bump into each other. They're going to step on each other's toes. Well, we didn't know how to say, ow. We didn't know how to say, oh, that was painful for me. And again, it was many years before we learned those tools, how to actually just say, ow, because we had been told as children, don't say ow. If you say ow, you'll get spanked for saying ow, which is so bizarre because that's what children are supposed to actually be able to say ow, as adults are as well. So that's the big change.
That is such an important thing that you guys highlighted. I think as a society, we celebrate not being able to tune with your emotions. I think it's got significantly better, like hopefully and going to get better in future. But right now, I think even now people think about, oh, she's so strong, right? That she doesn't let her emotion gets in the way, versus kind of thinking about it as a tool to be able to give you the information. Am I living a life based on my values? How does this work for me, my decisions? I think emotions can be very powerful. But I know also one thing that you guys talk about that's really important is the regulation piece, right? Going back to the point of Phyllis that she mentioned, that sometimes it's even protection from yourself. When I was in my graduate school, I was working at a methadone clinic with people with substance use issues. And back then with my husband now, we were doing long distance. So whenever we were seeing each other, we had sex. And that day I had a patient that OD. This was many years ago. And I was like, oh, but we're compartmentalizing that. We're going to have sex. I didn't even share that with my husband. But while we were having sex, I was crying and it was shock. I was like, oh my God, what happened? Because I thought I could compartmentalize better. Right. And I think it happens a lot in different degree for people saying that this is a time we want to have sex. I'm going to muscle through it. And that gets in the way of having good sexual experiences that you want. I know you guys talk a lot about tools and strategies. So can you share some practical strategies that couple can use to co-regulate together, maybe right before having sex or even during daily basis?
Wow. I love your example of, because what you just shared, and you were living apart, right? So you only had short moments together in a sense. And you were like, okay, got to compartmentalize because here's our time together. And yet your body was in shock. Your body was, grieving. Your body was, there was a lot going on there. And so what I love about the tools, is that expediency, which came at a time for me. I was running my company. My mom was dying and she was my best friend. And then my company in the first quarter it had quadrupled. So I was hiring and training people faster than it's really humanly possible. And I was working 7 days a week, and I was in tune with my mother, and I was having to fly to be part of her caretaking team. So when Glenn was doing all this research, I said, it's got to be fast and expedient. I don't have time to read books or to spend a lot of time. And I think about what you just shared, and there's a lot of listeners who live in a fast-paced life. Now, they may not be traveling, they may be with their significant other all the time. And yet you kind of want to compartmentalize everything because you're like, okay, we're going to dinner. What are we going to talk about? Well, I don't want to really talk about this, or this. And yet inside your body, you're crying out, well, that is what happened to me today. That is real for me. And so part of what we created was a 4-minute tool.
Okay, so let me interject because and I said to you before we started that I'm the educated one, Phyllis is the smart one, because she figures out what matters. Because I literally, and again, she's running her company, she's wide open, and I would bring home like a 350-page study that I just read and I thought was amazing. And I'd hand it to her. I'm like, babe, you have to read this. She's like, I'm not reading a 300. I'm like, no, it's really good. At least read the abstract. It's only 19 pages. And she's like, no, you boil it down, make it simple. Make it simple. And she said that to me so many times. And I'm like, oh, okay. But that's where most people live. I mean, life comes at you fast. We're busy with things, especially if you have children. It's like, whoa, you got all these plates spinning. So people don't need an hour and a half a day. They just don't have that time, that focus. And so it's really because of her that we've figured out, okay, this has to be a 2-minute tool. This has to be something we can narrow down that people can do and find themselves and then be able to share themselves in 2 or 3 minutes. We actually did research that if you tell people 5 minutes, they experience it differently than if you tell them 4 minutes. And so we actually developed the 4-minute tool for that very reason, because that seemed to be what resonated with people, that if it's 4 minutes, we can manage this. So sorry, I interrupted.
No, so part of it is realizing that for many, many of us, we need to learn how to tune into ourselves.
Right.
That is where you have to start. Yeah. And so the faster you can get there within yourself, the more effective this is. I think sometimes we think the more words we use, the more stories we tell, the more we write in our journal that we'll get there, instead of going, wait, I just need to ask myself, what is happening? I need to ask my body, what is happening for me right now? And going back to what you experienced, you had a situation where they had OD'd. You were flying to be with your spouse. You had a short amount of time with your spouse. So to tune in and go, okay, what is happening with me? You're asking that part of your brain to waken up, like as in tune in. I need to know. If we could all have brain scans going constantly, and we had the ability to do that, and we had it on our Apple Watches where we could look, oh, this is my brain is going crazy. I'm sad. I'm lonely. I'm hurt. Okay. But see, we don't live that way. So we have to do it without the technology. We have to tune into ourselves and go, okay, what is firing in my brain? And, a lot of us understand all of these things, our nervous system, our, the whole co-regulating, the self-regulating, like a lot of people understand that. But if you're starting from zero and you go, oh, emotions happen to you, I can't choose them. Correct. Then you want to know some really basic things quickly. And that's where I was at. So for Glenn, he was like, okay, there's a region in your brain. It fires your emotions. You can't choose them. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Tell me more, but make it quick. And he said, well, there's 5 regions. And then in those 5, we actually have broken them down to 8, which is the pain region. We break down into because I know there's times we know we're in pain, but on a brain scan, it looks differently. The sad, the hurt, and the lonely, they just look different on a brain scan. So we break those down. So instead of just having the 5 emotions, we have 8. And then actually with the disgust region, we call it shame and guilt, because it also manifests itself differently in your body. But they're very closely related, guilt and shame. And so it's a quick check-in, like what is happening with me, with anger, with fear, with joy, with sad, with hurt, with lonely, with guilt, and with shame. And so that can happen super fast. The more you do it, it's like there's a muscle. Yeah. It's part, think of it as a muscle. You're working out that muscle, that emotional muscle. Yeah. And the more you work it out, the faster you get at tuning in, what is happening with my body, then you actually begin to feel the sensations. When fear happens, I get short of breath. When sad happens, it feels like a dark cloud that's coming around my brain, and I start to feel stuffed. And, all these things, you begin to recognize the feeling in my gut. It's when I am, fear of the next thing. So we're also different in how we experience this. There's not this is definitely you. You got to figure it out for yourself. But when you know this emotional language, you can very quickly communicate that way with the people that are closest to you in your life. So for example, back to what you shared, you were about to get on that plane, and in a very quick, whatever, voice memo or in a text or in a quick phone call, you can say, hey, I'm feeling a ton of sad. I had a client OD today. I think it's just brought up a lot of stuff for me. I feel so much anger that there's even access to drugs out there. I feel guilt that I didn't do more. I feel some shame that I could not have seen it faster. And you just go through the whole list. I feel lonely in this process because who do you talk to? There's client confidentiality. I don't even know that I can talk about it. It's brought back memories of my own stuff, and you can share it super quick. And all of a sudden you see actually the shift in your body. You see it. It's like it came out. And then your significant other knows. They know exactly what's happening with you. But then you can also end it by saying, hey, I'm feeling a ton of sexual joy to see you, to kiss you, to hold you, to be sexual with you tonight, or, whatever. And it's like that person now, your person knows everything about you. And you've not spent an hour talking about it. You've not even spent, in a sense, minutes, and they are able to tune in and just hear you, which is big. And that's some more of our tools. Like, how does a person respond? And we always call it the ooh. And they're able to just hear you, make space for you. They're not trying to fix you. They're not trying to, they don't interrupt and ask a million questions. They just hear all that is going on with you emotionally. And that is super powerful. That for us changed everything when no longer I was thinking I had the pressure of fixing his emotion, fixing his sad, it was my problem. It's not. It's what he's experiencing. And that is super powerful. And sexually to show up, but like when I can say or hear his pain, even if I'm the one who caused it, it's like I can make space for that, and then we can still have a phenomenal sexual encounter.
Yeah, we actually end up connected more because we were safe for each other. And again, we're not going to Costco and getting these emotional experiences. They're already happening. And I remember when Phyllis, she mentioned when her mom was passing and her company was exploding in a good way, business-wise. And she would say to me, I don't have time to be sad. And I'd say, babe, I'm not trying to get you to be sad. I think you already are sad. I think you already feel this sadness, and it's real. It's just there. I'm not trying to get you to have sadness. It already is existing. The other powerful thing about the Connection Codes approach with the tools is just that there are 8 core emotions. All other emotions are either degrees of or hybrids of those. Well, my mother is a psychologist, and she showed me I think it was 170 emotion words that they would hand to their clients. Well, that's going to take you 35 minutes to sort through all those words. And the beauty of I believe the human design is that there's just 8. Just narrow it down. In pain, you can just put pain in together, hurt, sad, and lonely. And so now we're down to 6. And just to we can learn that. You can't learn a list of 170 emotions. My gosh, you're going to have to go look half of them up. And, that's just too complicated. And a lot of them don't even convey. And that's another big thing in our research where with mirror neurons, if I say to you, I felt fear in that, it actually activates fear in your brain as well. And it becomes a shared human experience, and we bond through that. When we see people in their authenticity, their vulnerability, we connect with them. And so this just cuts through all of the peripheral stuff, all the surface stuff, and gets it down to the core, because that's where humans connect. Humans connect through core emotions or disconnect through unprocessed core emotions. Wow, that was a
I
lot.
love that it's you guys kind of like have the system of helping people
Yeah.
to communicate effectively about their emotions, because as you said, like labeling, naming the emotion is important, also sharing it with the partner, so they are now into the in of what's happening for you, and they
Right.
have an
Yeah.
option of showing up for you.
Mm.
What can get tough is that the reality of life, especially when you're in longer term relationship, there are going to be moments that your cup is full too, like you're like very overwhelmed, and it's tough to show up for your partner in that place of receiving what they're experiencing. How do you recommend people to communicate that piece without creating a rupture?
Well, I think it gets back to the tool we were just now describing. Like, it is a daily tool. It is a constant way to communicate, because even the word overwhelm, what does that really mean? And I think it's when you even, let's say you're just having coffee with a friend and they say, "Oh, I'm so overwhelmed." You interpret that with your own definition of overwhelm. But when we can say, "Ooh, what's happening with overwhelm? What am I missing?" And they know this tool, they go, "Okay, good question. Let me think. All right, I think I have a lot of fear that I'm not going to get the promotion that I need. And I feel guilt because I've overspent the money in our budget, and I feel some shame. I've not been honest about it." And all of a sudden you're hearing huge stuff that you would not have gotten to with just the word overwhelm. And so it is a way to really stay connected to yourself and to be able to communicate to the people in your life in a way that they can understand. And then the other thing we talk about is that you realize I don't have to carry your emotional suitcase. You're going to carry it, and I can hear it, and I can connect with you through it, but I'm not responsible for it. I don't have to fix it.
Right. Yeah.
I just want to hear it. I want to hear your hurt, even when I'm the one who caused the hurt. I want to make space for that. And I want to give you that open invitation. Yeah, tell me. I want to know, like, tell me more about that. Like, what am I missing? Because sometimes we hurt each other and we don't even know that we've hurt each other. And it's not a right or a wrong. It's simply that I felt hurt by what you just said. And for the other to tune in and go, "Ooh, what did I miss?" Because that person wasn't trying to hurt, but it just felt like a stabbing pain all of a sudden. And then you start to break it down and you realize, "Oh yeah, well that word really triggered me because my ex used to use that word."
Wow.
And it's so painful when you say that. And I know you're not my ex, and I know you don't mean it that way, but man, could you not say that word? And part of it that in these things, we're always trying to find the need. What do I need in this moment in my life?
Right.
What do you need? And so often we don't get to the need because we don't know how to break down what's happening for us. And so that's another thing we really teach, is that this is a journey where we're getting to the need. And I think so often we even live in a society when we just do what's next. We don't even slow down enough to go, "Hey, I actually need to go for a walk. My body is begging me to go for a walk." We don't even tune into that. We ignore that stuff because we don't have time.
Yeah, and Phyllis mentioned before what we call the ooh, and the ooh is simply an audible response. There's dozens of versions of the ooh, but it's something we call audible listening, which sounds like an oxymoron. But to be audible with people, and the connection grew out of just examining the human condition. Most of this stuff we do automatically when we're infants, and we do that with babies. And if you walk into a room with a baby, you're not silent. We all walk in. We have 12 grandchildren. We have a 15-month-old grandson and an 18-month-old grandson are the two youngest ones. And you walk in the room, you're just automatically audible with them. And you're not really saying anything. You're going, "Oh, hey, buddy." We just make noises. We make sounds. And if you're silent, and I've actually done this research with all 12 of my grandkids, if you're silent with them, they get lit up real quick. And they don't understand who you are. It doesn't matter that I'm his grandfather. He doesn't like me in that moment if I'm silent with him. So learning simply to ooh, just be present with the other person. We call it following the energy. When Phyllis says to me, "I felt hurt," even if it involves me, I just go, "Oh, wow, okay." And we call it the 3 phrases. I'm going to go, "So wait, what happened? What did I miss?" And she's just going to tell me. And, was I involved? Well, yeah. Is it my fault? I don't know. I don't know how to figure that out. Is it 19% my fault, 62% my fault? I don't know. I'm not sure. And I don't even care because I care about her and the fact that she felt pain. I may have literally have done something with a good intention and she felt pain. Well, her pain still counts. Her hurt still counts. It's still valid. It's like, no. My intention was good, so you can't feel hurt. Well, she's not trying to feel hurt. She just felt hurt. And me explaining my good intention doesn't change that pain. Me oohing her, being present with her, following her energy helps her to process it.
We would love to just do this. We're talking about it, but we would love to use this tool right now before we run out of time, just so your listeners can get a kind of clue as to what this sounds like when two people use this tool. And then we have a special link for your listeners at connectioncodes.co/sexology, where they can download for free this tool and they can get the instructions and a video that actually teaches them how to use this tool. And it is a 4-minute tool, which is the goal. Sometimes we go a few seconds over.
No, don't go.
But is this a good time to do that?
Perfect. Okay. Let's jump in.
Okay, awesome. And we would love for you to do it too. If we'll start just to give the example of how this works. You want me to go first?
Sure.
All right. Definitely felt sad first thing this morning when I got the text. Actually, it was through a phone call, the first one, about your mom, that she's not doing well. Feel hurt that your sister did not let us know that your mom is really doing poorly. Probably feel a lot of anger just around all of that, and just the way we've been treated lately through that situation. Let's see. I think I feel some fear about some of the health things that I've been facing lately. Just kind of like the fear of not knowing. I feel lonely in all the decisions that have to be made, like what doctor, what's the protocol, what's the next thing with what is the best thing. I think I feel lonely in that. Let's see. I feel guilt that I put it off. Like I was very aware last year that I needed to pay attention to this, and I just kept putting it off. And probably shame to be at this point in my life. And I'm like, good grief. My body is yelling at me, and I never thought I would be here at 62. So definitely feel some shame in that. Did I already say the hurt?
Yes.
Okay. And then joy, just tremendous joy to be going into the weekend. I know we get to hang out with the grandkids tonight, and a lot of joy with that, and a lot of joy just with getting to be on this podcast. It's just always really fun for us to be on podcasts. So I think I did say all 8.
Amazing. Yeah, cool. Thank you. I love it. So for me, tons of joy being on this podcast, getting to partner with you. It's just unbelievable, this journey we're on. And I didn't know we'd ever get here. There were some really hard years, a long time.
Wow.
And just so much joy that we get to do this. Some hurt. You've discovered some things about yourself the last few weeks and shared some of those with me. And I'm thrilled. So much joy that you shared them. But then some hurt. It's like, oh, wow, I missed on that. Lots of guilt and shame in that. It's like, how can I possibly, we've been together 46 and a half years. We've known each other. I shouldn't be missing anything. I should be perfect with you. And I hate it when I miss with you. And there's a lot of anger in that because I'm really driven to learn you, to know you, to just be present with you, be who you need because you're so important to me. Fear that I'll miss things now, that the things that we do this afternoon, a year from now, I'll find out that was a big miss, but you didn't tell me because that's where so many of those, hurts have come from for both of us that, and I want to hear it. I want to hear it all the time, every time. What's happening for you. Lonely, just in our mission with the connection codes. It's a big world. There's 7-8 billion people on it, and we're trying to reach them all, which is quite an undertaking because there's a lot of them left. We haven't reached them all yet, so it's a big task ahead of us. And then sad with my mom, for so many reasons, certainly her passing, but just her life. She's an amazing woman in so many ways, but she never learned how to connect deeply, and there's lots of reasons for that, all the way back to her birth and childhood. But I just feel so much sadness. She lived with us for so long, and she just never Never knew how to connect. And that's my biggest sad with that.
Wow.
I think that's 8.
Wow.
So I love that. So beautiful. So you guys go into each category, right? Like item by item, and you're letting your partner or the person you're talking to know about what's happening in each category.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is it my turn? I haven't practiced it, but let's see. Let me start. I feel tremendous joy whenever I see people kind of are able to repair and build a relationship truly from bottom of my heart. It's such a joy to hear your story. With hurt, I feel hurt that there's just like there are lots of immigration changes that I have friends that they are in the process of kind of attorney in immigration area, and I hear lots of hurt stories of people getting impacted. Guilt and shame. We are in the process of family planning, and there's a part of me that feels guilt that I didn't prioritize it before. Anger, justice is a huge value for me. And again, just talked to a friend that she's an immigration attorney, and she told me a story of injustice for a family, and that was very painful. Fear is that the ramification of all of these new changes on the impact of my own client and undoing the progress that they had. That's very fearful. And lonely. Let's see, lonely is, I'm so lucky that that's not something that shows up in this moment, anything from me, but I can imagine that I feel protective of my younger self when I had a lot of moments that I experienced loneliness, but I'm full of joy now that I have support. Did I get it correctly?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Wow, that's amazing.
Oh my word. I love it.
I love that so much. And you know how quickly we learn, like to me right now I understand who you are at such a deeper level just by doing that together. And, for those who are listening, it's kind of like probably for a lot of you heard parts of our story in just this one tool, in this one exercise. And it's a beautiful way to really go deep with yourself. And to go so much deeper within your relationships. And I know we were specifically talking about your sexual relationship and just how to show up authentically, right? How to show up and in times, like you were saying, your answer may be no, right? And yet to be able to say, feeling some guilt that my body is just not able to get there, but I feel a lot of joy that you are interested in me. And I feel joy in the idea of maybe scheduling some time tomorrow morning. And, I just feel like I need to crash right now. And so you're connecting. And it's amazing the couples that we work with where they feel, instead of the whole rejection, it's like they actually feel connected because they've both been able to show up and say, and the partner's response may be, feeling some sexual loneliness, but the other can just make space for that and go, I hear you. What do you need? Well, I just need us to slow down this weekend. And can we just spend some time? And then you look at your schedule and you go, well, how about if we rearrange this? And yes, let's go to breakfast, or let's get up together, or let's have a date tomorrow night. And you are partnering even in those times when sexually you're not at the same place at the same time, which very few people are actually. So often they're just not there at the same time. Yeah,
and I do have to say that just because it's a new area of research for me the last couple of years. When couples experience sexual connection, when they're not even being involved sexually, they're not having sexual activity at that moment. I can tell you quite a few humorous stories, just as far as times that I'm not even with Phyllis, but I'll text her, I'll call her, and I'm experiencing all of this sexual connection, and we're not even doing anything sexual. And that's been eye-opening for me the last couple of years to realize that that actually can happen, that we're sexual friends, we're sexual partners, and it's not just because we're doing a sexual activity in that moment. And we hear from couples all the time that that's what they're experiencing, especially when they learn how to use sexual banter where they can, sext each other, text each other, and just how sexually bonding that is, even though they're not doing a sexual activity in that moment.
But I think it's beautiful as you guys were sharing these kind of different emotions. I saw a lot of attunement, right? That was happening. And for our audience that are not going to see the video, was lots of even kind of like touching and grounding the partner, which can be very powerful. So thank you for all these great tools. I feel like I can talk to you guys for hours, but I think the good news is that now people know they can find, where can they find you and also your show. So is there any other place that you recommend people to go to check out your content?
Well, probably the link that we are giving you, specifically the one that's connectioncodes.co/sexology, gives them everything. Like, I think that's a great place to get in, to get the free core emotion wheel. And then with that, they will also see all the other ways they can connect with our podcast, connect with our book, with our courses. We have all kinds of courses as well that we offer, plus the private practice. So, and we have coaches and we certify coaches. So there's a lot, but the best place to start is just to go to connectioncodes.co/sexology, and they'll get in and they'll get the free material and they'll get started on the journey.
Wow.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for all the great work that you guys are doing. And hopefully our listeners kind of look into the link and sign up so they can have access to all of those great material. And thank you so much. And I hope I'll have you in our future episodes.
Yes,
Love that.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.